My brother put me in prison unjustly, the family intervened and now the truth has been found out. It was a crisp autumn morning when the sound of police sirens shattered the tranquility of our modest home. I stood frozen in the kitchen, my hands dusted with flour as I prepared breakfast. The aroma of pancakes filled the air, but my heart raced as the front door burst open, revealing two officers with grave expressions. "Is your name Alex Johnson?" one of them demanded, his voice stern and unyielding. "Yes," I replied, confusion swirling in my mind. "You're under arrest for the murder of Samuel Wright." The words hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. Samuel was my best friend, a loyal companion since childhood. A loud bang echoed through my thoughts as they handcuffed me, dragging me away from the only home I had ever known. My brother, Jason, stood in the doorway, his face pale, his eyes darting away from mine. Days turned into weeks as I sat in the cold, dark confines of my cell. Prison was a nightmare I had never imagined. I struggled to hold on to my sanity, each day merging into the next, the world outside fading further from my grasp. My mind was consumed with thoughts of betrayal and confusion. How could this happen? Jason, my own brother, had put me here. During my trial, I sat in the defendant's chair, feeling the weight of despair as I listened to Jason testify against me. He painted a picture of a jealous brother who wanted to destroy Samuel out of spite, twisting the truth into a weapon against me. Each lie he told cut deeper than any physical blow. My heart ached as I realized how easily he had turned my family against me. I looked into the faces of my parents, their expressions a mixture of shock and betrayal, and I felt my heart sink further. The jury convicted me based on circumstantial evidence and Jason's damning words. My world unraveled as the gavel struck, sealing my fate. I was sentenced to 15 years behind bars, and just like that, my life was shattered. Months passed in silence, and my family struggled to process the betrayal. My parents were torn between their love for me and their fear of their son's lies. I received letters from them, each filled with doubt and uncertainty. It was my sister, Lily, who refused to believe that I could harm anyone. Her faith in me remained unwavering, a bright light in the oppressive darkness of my situation. Every week, Lily visited me, bringing news from home and sharing her thoughts about the trial. Her presence was a balm to my tortured soul. During our visits, she listened patiently as I recounted the details of that fateful night, trying to piece together how it all went so wrong. "I won't let them keep you here, Alex," she promised fiercely. "I'll find a way to prove it." With determination burning in her eyes, she began her own investigation. Late nights were spent poring over court documents and police reports, searching for any inconsistencies that might exonerate me. She contacted friends of Samuel, hoping they might remember something that could help. With each visit, I could see her resolve grow stronger as she uncovered small details that didn't add up, witness statements that contradicted Jason's testimony, discrepancies in the timeline of events that night. "I found out that Samuel had been arguing with someone before his death," she said one day, excitement mingling with urgency in her voice. "And I don't think it was you." The flicker of hope in her eyes reignited my own determination. One evening, she handed me a small, worn notebook filled with her notes and observations. "I've been tracking everything," she explained. "There's something off about Jason's story. I can feel it." With every ounce of her being, Lily fought for me, refusing to let the family be torn apart by Jason's lies. It wasn't just my freedom at stake, it was the truth, and Lily was determined to uncover it. As the months wore on, she uncovered more leads that pointed away from me and toward Jason. Each revelation fueled her resolve. One day, she discovered security footage from a nearby gas station that captured the night of the murder. My heart raced as she described it. "The footage shows Jason arguing with Samuel just before the incident," she told me, her voice barely containing her excitement. With this new evidence, she approached the lawyer who agreed to take on my case. Together, they presented the footage to the court, and within days, a retrial was scheduled. As I sat in the courtroom again, I felt a mix of hope and anxiety, the atmosphere thick with tension. The judge allowed the new evidence to be shown, and as the footage played, revealing Jason's anger and aggression, I could hardly breathe. The courtroom gasped when my lawyer pointed out that Jason was the last person seen with Samuel before his death. The judge paused the footage, his eyes narrowing as he examined the screen. The room was silent except for the hum of the projector. I glanced at Jason, who sat across the room, his face pale and trembling. I could see the realization dawning on him that his lies were unraveling, and that truth was finally emerging from the shadows. The lawyer resumed his questioning, turning toward the jury with an air of conviction. "As you can see, This footage contradicts the entire narrative presented by the prosecution. Jason's aggression is evident, and his proximity to Samuel just before the fatal incident cannot be overlooked. It raises serious questions about who the real perpetrator is. As the lawyer continued, I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me. Memories of those long months in prison surged back, the despair, the loneliness, the feeling of helplessness. But now, there was a flicker of hope igniting in my chest. I allowed myself to envision a future outside these cold walls, a future where I could reclaim my life. After the footage concluded, the courtroom buzzed with murmurs. The jury appeared engaged, leaning forward, their expressions shifting as they processed the implications of what they had just witnessed. I dared to glance at my family, who sat in the front row. Lily's eyes sparkled with hope, her determination evident in her posture. My parents wore expressions of cautious optimism, as if they were beginning to believe in the possibility of my innocence. Jason's lawyer rose to cross-examine, attempting to discredit the evidence. This footage could be easily manipulated or misinterpreted, he argued, desperation creeping into his voice. There's no proof that Jason had anything to do with Samuel's death. This could merely be a coincidence. Coincidence? My lawyer shot back, his voice ringing with authority. Jason is not just a bystander in this situation. He has motive, opportunity, and now, through this footage, we have proof of his violent behavior. The real question is, why did Jason lie in the first place? The tension in the room escalated, and I could see Jason's facade beginning to crack. He shifted nervously in his seat, his eyes darting around the courtroom as if searching for an escape. I could sense the anxiety radiating off him, and for the first time, I felt a swell of confidence. My sister's hard work was paying off, and the truth was finally clawing its way to the surface. As the trial continued, Lily and the lawyer dug deeper. They brought in witnesses who could attest to Jason's volatile nature and who had heard him express jealousy over my relationship with Samuel. He always felt overshadowed by Alex, one of Samuel's friends testified, her voice steady as she recounted conversations they'd had. I remember him saying that he wished he could be more like him. The more evidence they presented, the more I could see the cracks forming in Jason's carefully crafted story. He had built his narrative on a foundation of lies, and with each piece of evidence, that foundation crumbled further. Finally, the day came for the closing arguments. My lawyer stood before the jury, his expression earnest and commanding. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "this case isn't just about the death of Samuel Wright, it's about justice. It's about uncovering the truth, no matter how painful it may be. The evidence you've seen is compelling. Jason's jealousy, his violent tendencies, and now this footage clearly showed that he was not just a witness but a key player in this tragedy." As he spoke, I felt the weight of every injustice I had endured. I thought of the nights I had spent in my cell, the dreams of freedom that felt so far away. I thought of my family, how they had rallied around me, how Lily had fought tooth and nail to expose the truth. In that moment, I knew I wasn't just fighting for my freedom, I was fighting for the honor of Samuel's memory and for the truth to finally come to light. After deliberation, the jury returned, and the atmosphere was electric. I could barely hear the foreman as he announced the verdict, my heart racing in my chest. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Alexander Johnson, not guilty." A wave of relief washed over me, and tears streamed down my face. I was free. The chains that had bound me for so long shattered, and I could finally breathe again. My family rushed forward, enveloping me in their embrace. Lily's arms were tight around me, her joy palpable. "We did it, Alex. We did it," she cried, her voice choked with emotion. But as the celebration began, I turned to look at Jason. He sat in his seat, his expression a mix of shock and fury. I could see that the reality of his actions was sinking in, that he had lost everything in his pursuit of jealousy and revenge. I felt a surge of sadness for the brother I once knew, but I knew I couldn't let his choices define my future. The courtroom slowly emptied, and I walked out into the sunlight for the first time in what felt like an eternity. The air was fresh and filled with the scent of autumn leaves, a stark contrast to the sterile walls of my cell. As we stepped outside, the world felt vibrant and alive. My family surrounded me, their love radiating like a warm blanket. "Let's go home," my mother said, her voice trembling with relief. In the weeks that followed, I faced the daunting task of rebuilding my life. I had been stripped of my freedom, and the scars of betrayal would take time to heal. But with my family by my side, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I enrolled in classes to finish my degree and sought therapy to work through the emotional turmoil of my imprisonment. Lily remained my closest ally, and together, we shared our story with others. We spoke at community centers and schools, raising awareness about wrongful convictions and the importance of seeking the truth. The experience had changed us both, igniting a passion for justice and advocacy that would shape our lives for years to come. As for Jason, he became a ghost in our lives. The family struggled to reconcile the brother I had lost with the one I had once loved. There were conversations about forgiveness, about understanding the complexities of human nature, but I knew that trust was something that takes time to rebuild. In the end, I emerged from my ordeal with a deeper understanding of the fragility of relationships and the importance of family. The scars of betrayal would remain, but they served as reminders of the strength and resilience that had seen me through. As I stood before a classroom of eager students, sharing my story of resilience, I realized that justice isn't just about the outcome, it's about the journey. It's about standing up for what is right, even when the odds are stacked against you. And in that journey, I found not just my freedom, but a renewed sense of purpose and a determination to honor the memory of those who had suffered in silence. Together with my family, I was ready to face whatever came next, united by love, truth, and an unwavering belief in the power of justice.